Well, let's get things started with Deadly Blessing, which is essentially about a woman who loses her husband due to a mysterious death, and she's just left to fend for herself against a bunch of Amish-type people with a leader who believes there's an incubus causing all the mayhem. I've seen this movie twice now. Both times, I had an okay time watching it. I didn't think it was necessarily anything all that special. I think the ending to the movie's sort of entertaining and things really pick up there, but the majority of the movie just feels like it's in cruise control and it's kind of moving along, and maybe it builds a little too slowly, I'm not sure, but the majority of the movie just doesn't seem to really have any major highs or lows for me. So it just overall just doesn't really feel all that special to me. I like the end, but that's about it.
Yeah, I feel like I mostly agree. I like the atmosphere throughout the movie. And just to, I guess, back up a little, I've never seen this one before, so I sort of went into this one not knowing much about it. No, I thought it was interesting concept. Like I said, there's a decent atmosphere, but it's just a bit slow moving. And I'm a bit of a I have a bit of arachnophobia, so the tarantula scenes, those somewhat terrifying.
Yeah, they got a spider scene, they've got a snake scene.
And like speaking of that snake scene, I sort of liked how it's pretty much it's same type of setup from Nightmare on Elm Street from a few years later.
Yeah, I was going to make the exact same point. Even the way it's filmed, it still reminds you a little bit of that scene from A Nightmare on Elm Street. Obviously, this one came first, so I don't know if Wes Craven thought, look, it looked good in this movie, let's try it in another movie. But yeah, no, it's, I've seen many snakes in my lifetime. I've even been chased by snakes up trees and things like that, so...
You've got to Lava's Trail.
Yeah, that's just a typical weekend for us. But yeah, I mean, the snake scene's pretty intense. I assume most people not too fond of snakes, especially the dangerous ones.
Yeah, see, I'd say the snake scene didn't bother me. I mean, it was suspenseful, don't get me wrong, but like during the scenes with the tarantulas, and there I think there's three throughout the movie. Like one, this woman looks up on her ceiling, and there's a tarantula crawling, and she just goes to sleep. If there's a tarantula crawling on my ceiling, I wouldn't be in that room. It just like I would not be there. So those scenes sort of stuck with me. I do think one of the best sequences in the movie was when one of the characters, I forget the woman's name, but it's one of the three women, goes into a barn to get something for the other woman. And then sort of like a 6-7 minute sequence where she's sort of trapped in the barn, being sort of chased and freaked out by this mysterious thing. And I don't know, I really liked the whole thing. I probably one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most suspenseful scenes in the movie.
Yeah, and the funny thing about this one is, Ernest Borgnine in the movie, I guess he does a decent job in the movie, but I'm mostly familiar with him from the movie Basketball. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but which is a comedy movie, and all the characters in it are pretty ridiculous to an extent. So I'm trying to watch him play this serious type character, and then all I can think about is his character from this other movie and all the silly stuff that happens in that. It's just hard to take him seriously all the time.
Yeah, so I was actually reading up about this movie after I watched it, and apparently he was nominated for, I think it was a Razzie Award for like being one of the worst side characters in the movie of 1981. It's sort of like blew my mind because I actually thought he did a pretty decent job here. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
maybe he was a bit, stereotypical stone Hittite type guy, but I thought he did okay.
Yeah, I thought he did okay as well. I'm not too familiar with a lot of the other things that he's done, but obviously he's one of the more popular names in the movie, and I don't know, maybe in comparison to things that he's done previously, they saw this as a kind of a silly movie, but.
So speaking of actors, I just wanted to point out it's sort of nice seeing Michael Bayman in the movie. It sort of made sense because he was also in Hills of Eyes, which was also a Wes Craven movie. I sort of like how he brought him back, even though his role here wasn't like really substantial.
Yeah. There's quite a few known names here, whether they're familiar to B-movie fans or horror movie fans or mainstream movie fans. I mean, even Sharon Stone's in the movie. I think it's one of her earlier films, maybe even her first film, I can't recall.
Yeah, it's funny because I know that's like a big talking point. At least I've seen it as a big talking point. I don't know who Sharon Stone is. Like, I've heard the name before. I have no idea who she is.
All I can think about, whenever I watch a movie with Sharon Stone, all I can think about is from Scream, where Matthew Lillard's saying, "Let's face it, she's no Sharon Stone." I think when I was talking about Sydney's mother or something like that. I even just loudly say it during the movie. You know Sharon Stone. Yeah, and another thing, just the whole Amish type presence in the movie. It just, once again, other things that just taint the experience, I guess. I mean, there's that Weird Al Yankovic song where he does a parody of Gangsta's Paradise.
It's a pretty fun song.
Amish Paradise or whatever. Sell quilts at discount price. Yeah. So, I'm constantly thinking of all these stupid, funny things unrelated to the movie. Well, I mean, loosely related.
Yeah, I think what I was most interested in was there was like a line from one of the characters, like, so hey, these people like Amish people. It's like, oh no, they're more hardcore. And I'm like, what made them more hardcore than most Amish people? I just didn't see it. Actually, on a fun side note, I used to live in a small village in New York, New York State, which actually was like had a pretty high Amish population. So it's a random jiggy fact. It has no relation to this movie. I also wanted to mention about this movie. Toward the end, the movie becomes almost, it starts feeling more like a slasher in a way. And never really goes like full over the top slasher, but it gets a little more familiar. I'm a big slasher fan, and it starts feeling a little more familiar to me. And toward the end, there's like somewhat of a twist, which I thought was interesting. I'm not sure if it was really done all that well, but it was an interesting idea.
Yeah, I know when I looked this movie up the first time I watched it about a year or two ago, there were some people, saying that the ending is kind of a mess or it doesn't make sense or all these kind of things. They had problems with it, and even though I'm not, I didn't really watch the movie with my brain switched on. Like I said, I'm thinking of all these things from basketball and Amish Paradise and all this kind of stuff. I'm just all over the shop, so I'm not even. I mean, I'm following the story, but at the same time, I'm not really thinking too hard about connecting all the dots. This is happening because of this and yada yada yada. So I didn't really care too much about whether the ending made complete sense or whatever it was. It just felt like a fairly entertaining ending. Like you said, there's a slasher aspect to it, which started to make things a little more enjoyable. And then also, yeah, that kind of the thing that happens at the end. I won't spoil it, but yeah, we all know what kind of pops up there.
Admittedly, that ending I thought was somewhat terrible. I mean, it just didn't make, in my opinion, didn't make much sense compared to what happened before. But I mean, that's fine. I heard that Wes Craven didn't even really want that in the movie, but so the producer sort of made him do it. So it happens.
Fuck it. No, it's entertaining. Leave it in. So, I mean, I think Deadly Blessing's an okay movie. It's a movie that I wouldn't mind probably seeing again, another 5-10 years later, but I just didn't think it was all that special. Decent ending, but the majority of the movie just feels like it's kind of just moving along at a steady pace, not really doing too much. So I'd give it a 6 out of 10, and which is about an average rating for me.
Yeah, I enjoyed some aspects of this movie, but I don't know, it didn't entirely work. It was an interesting concept, but there were some issues here. I don't know, I think it's around average, so I'm just going to throw this one a 7 out of 10. And that may change if I see it again in the future, but I think for now, 7 out of 10 average sort of covers it.
Yeah, you may need to watch some more Sharon Stone movies.
I mean, yeah, I think I've only seen this one, so...